Welcome to Ground Up Growth, where we share entrepreneurial insights, business strategies, and personal growth lessons to help listeners build success from the ground up.
Welcome back to Ground Up Growth. Today we've got Bridgforth Rutledge here. This is episode 17. Bridgforth is, first off, my Sunday school teacher, and second, he is an attorney. He's a real estate investor. He is a father of 7 kids.
7, yep.
It's gonna be a fun one today.
All mine.
All yours.
And my wife, same woman.
Same woman. Boy, that's strong.
Yeah.
All right, Bridgforth, thank you so much for coming on. Tell us a little bit about yourself, how old you are, where you from, all that.
I grew up, and tell me if I'm getting off track or if I'm getting in too much detail of what you're looking for.
We'll cut it out if we don't like it.
I grew up in New Albany, Northeast Mississippi, and had 7 brothers and no sisters. And my parents got divorced. My mother moved to Rankin County, and after a year or two, I came here and I moved in with her, me and my brothers.
How old are you when that happened?
They got divorced when I was 10. And I moved to Rankin County Reservoir when I was 14.
Okay.
And went to Northwest Rankin and loved it. Lived in Mill Creek. I don't know if you know where that is, but and just had a good experience there. I have 2 real full brothers, 1 half brother, and 3 stepbrothers. And we grew up together in New Albany, and we stayed close. And even when I moved here, we stayed close. And we still, I think we text. I don't think a single day goes by that we all 7 of us don't text with each other. And
wow,
yeah, and we our texts are we would all get blacklisted and investigated if our texts were public. So we switched to the Signal app to try to keep them private, and because they're just really bad.
That's tough.
Yeah, and so I went to Ole Miss, and then I switched.
Hang on, did you work between 14 and Ole Miss?
I did. I worked at Bag Groceries in a grocery store, and did cut yards, typical kind of high school jobs, and I remember, I worked just enough to get by.
What'd your parents do?
My dad is a small town lawyer in New Albany, still is, and my mom was a counselor, but really didn't work much. And when I moved here, we didn't have a lot of money. I had to work in high school, and I had enough to get by. But I remember there were plenty of times where I would drive from Mill Creek to Northwest, and I'd run out of gas on the way there and pull over on the side of Lakeland and just get a ride with somebody in my class to get to school. But it was fine, you just kind of what I knew.
Yeah, that's all you knew.
Yeah, and so when I was, and I'll kind of get into a little bit of the business part of it and kind of tell you kind of my history in that. When I've always been, probably like you, Paul, have been entrepreneurial and just kind of that's just kind of how I'm built. And, I enjoy business activities and things like that more than I do sports. And
right.
That's just kind of what interests me. And I remember when I was young, I went to, this is kind of the first time I kind of realized that I maybe had some ability in that area. I went to a Boy Scout jamboree. And I think we were staying overnight at the University of Maryland on the way there. And I don't know if you're a Boy Scout, but in Jamboree.
Not a whole lot.
All right.
I was whatever the little cub is, and then I fell out of the boat after that.
Okay.
Royal Ranger or something. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of that.
I don't know. That was something else then, I guess.
But anyway, in the Jamboree, the goal was to collect these little pins that you'd put on your lapel or whatever. And that was kind of like the currency there. And I didn't have one. And I remember distinctly walking back to the dorm, I think it was in Maryland, and not a pin, like a cool scout pin that's engraved, but a button fell out of a magnolia tree. And I remember hearing it hit the limbs. Maybe somebody threw it out of the dorm room or something. But it was one of those buttons that's essentially just like a round thing with paper wrapped over it with a cover on it. You know what I'm talking about? And it was nothing worth anything. And I remember I traded it, and kept trading and going. And by the end of the jamboree, I had more pins than anybody in my troop. And I remember the other kids going, "How did you do that?" And it was just from starting with that one. So I kind of just recognized that I had God had given me some ability in that area. And then in high school, I enjoyed messing with car stereo equipment. So I started buying and selling that and installing it, things like that to make extra money. And then I started buying motorcycles. And I remember first motorcycle I got, my mom wouldn't let me have a motorcycle, so I'd park it on the next cul-de-sac down the street so she wouldn't know I had it. And so I did that, and then I started, when I was getting close to being a senior, I would start buying and selling cars. I bought a truck, and then I bought a boat at one point and redid it and sold it. And so I've just always done that. And then when I went to Ole Miss, and I had a pretty serious girlfriend here, and so I came back and went to Millsaps, really to be closer to her. And I started, I needed to my parents paid for part of my college, but the money ran out and I had to pay for the rest. So I decided to invest in real estate and knew nothing about it. And, none of my family was really in it or anything. And I had no clue. So I remember I would get the classified ads and see these HUD houses that were for sale, which a HUD house is essentially a house that's repossessed when it has a FHA loan. It's the government-backed loan, so the government takes it back over and sells it. And I found one that I wanted to buy in Ridgeland in Village Square, which is a neighborhood. I don't know if you know where that is.
Yeah, I used to live right there by it.
And so I saw it, and I was taking pictures of it, and I remember I broke in the window, and I went inside, and I took pictures, and so I spent...
How old are you at this point?
I was
20?
19 or 20.
Yeah.
Probably 20. And I remember I went to a realtor, and I said, you had to go through a realtor to put in an offer on it then. And then the structure was, it's not like that now, but if you were going to be an owner-occupant, well, it may still be like that. But
there
if you're
was a
going
window where you could buy it.
Yeah, and you get first shot at it.
15-day window for
Right.
owner occupancy.
So I went and tried to put an offer, and I remember the realtor said, "That's offensive. That's too low." And so I said, "All right." And I went to another realtor, and we put in an offer. They accepted it. I think it was like $35,000 or something like that. I don't remember the amount, but it was on Banbury Cross in that neighborhood. And so I had it under contract. And I would go back and forth to a bunch of different banks in town. And I had photos and a binder. And I said, so ultimately I got my first loan at Trustmark, and I bought that house. I had a little money saved up, not much, but
So
a few $1,000s.
Are you working?
No, I was in school full-time at Millsaps, and with student loans. And I had worked and saved up some money, and I had a really good deal on the house.
What was your plan how to pay for it?
Rent it before the
house
note.
hack.
Yeah, before the note came due, and before the first payment.
Right.
And so, I found this guy. I had to renovate it, so I found this guy in the country named Tom Richards, who was like a retired builder, and I essentially convinced him to work with me for $1 an hour. If I would work with him, he didn't have anything to do. He was just a country guy. And I said, "I'll work with you." And he charged me $1 an hour to renovate it. And we got in there and renovated that thing. And I remember I'd go to class at Millsaps, and I'd head over there and work on it. And we renovated it. I leased it. Ultimately, I had a good bit of equity in it, and I ended up buying more and more. And I had quite a few residential rental properties that I had built up.
Before you graduated college?
Yeah, before I graduated from college. And then after college...
So you graduated from Millsaps and got what degree?
Graduated from Millsaps with an English degree, and I think I almost had a minor in political science. But my goal was to go to law school. But so what I did, I worked for a year. Me and a friend of mine cut grass and just managed my houses and just kind of got by. And I remember... Speaking of, that was one time, I think it was during that year, you know how it is when you're starting off. It's like I would live off sometimes not paying the property taxes on the houses, and instead I needed that money. It's essentially like borrowing money at 18% from the government. You ever do that?
Not at 18%, but yeah. And then,
You know what I mean? If you can't pay, you can't pay it. And
Yeah.
I needed the money. I remember one time I took this girl on a date. Her name was Audra. I took her on a date, and there was a bar called Rodeos in town. It was a country bar on Ridgewood Road. And I remember, because of this event, I remember going up and getting us each a beer at the bar. And I remember in my mind thinking, that's literally the last money I have, period. Like, I had multiple rental properties, but it's always like cutting it. It's hard to make money in these things.
Yeah.
And you can build equity, but it's,
Right. Yeah.
people are under the misconception that if they own real estate, they're automatically, the cash is going to start flowing in, and it doesn't always work like that.
No.
Even if you're renting them. So, but I remember thinking that was kind of a shock to me, because I was thinking, I'm totally broke. Like, if I run out of gas on the way home, this girl's not getting home. And so, but anyway, so I ended up taking the LSAT, and I did well on it, and I got a full scholarship to law school and to MC and Ole Miss, but I decided to go to MC. And so my plan was, I didn't need money for school. So and it was hard to borrow money. As you know, when you're starting out, it's really hard to borrow money.
For sure.
And so I went to law school really essentially so I could take out student loans, because I didn't need them because I had a full scholarship. So I went to school, and I borrowed every student loan I could borrow. And then I quit law school, and I took that money to invest in real estate, the student loans, which is illegal. But if if you pay it back, it doesn't really matter.
Right.
So I went to law school for a year, took out the student loans, didn't have any tuition, took that money, and I decided while I was at Millsaps to build something on the empty lot. I would drive by beside UMC and University Memorial Stadium, and I would see the lot where hundreds and hundreds of doctors and nurses, relatively high income earners, walking literally a dirt path through that lot. So I said, I got to build something there. And it was owned by the state, or the stadium, I think at that point. And I decided to do a restaurant there. I had never even been in the kitchen of a restaurant. I didn't know anything about it. But I figured out the residential rental property just by making mistakes and doing it. So I figured I could figure it out.
Yeah.
And so I didn't qualify for any of the big brands. You've got to have money to do McDonald's or any of that. So I introduced myself to the CEO of Backyard Burgers, a guy named Laddie Michael, who was in Memphis, and convinced him to let me do it. And I sold a number of the rental properties. I took as much of the cash as I still have from student loans, and I leased the property. It was state property. You couldn't buy it. And I was going to build the building, but I didn't have enough money. So Laddie introduced me to a guy named John, who lives in Clarksdale, who put up the rest of the money. So I partnered with him on the restaurant.
Who is that?
His name's John Cock, and he's still a good friend today. He's a medical malpractice lawyer in Clarksdale.
Really?
Yeah.
My wife's from Clarksdale.
Okay. Well, the law firm's Merkel and Cox.
Yeah.
And so anyway, first time I'd ever done anything commercial. All the other stuff I had kind of done by myself, and it was residential, and this was not only commercial, but restaurant. And so he put up the money and really just trusted me, because I was like an idiot kid. I didn't know what I was doing.
Take 2 seconds and tell me how you, as a kid with no money and no job and all that, how did you get in touch with the CEO of Backyard Burger, and how long did that take?
I just called him and talked to him. I mean, it wasn't a giant brand. It was a regional brand. And I just called him, introduced myself, and met him and told him my plan. And it was still a growing brand. So he didn't have a lot of risk in it, because I'm going to be paying him royalties. But I'm found that a lot of times, even now, with a little bit of tenacity, and you can get in touch with people. People, particularly people that run companies, are often willing to talk to you if you take the time to get in touch with the right person and get there. It's just there's a lot of roadblocks in between them and you.
Right.
Probably less.
That's why I was curious. It seems like gatekeepers are.
Yeah, but there was probably less gatekeepers then. Yeah. I mean, that was before a lot of like emails and stuff like that. And this guy's not, he wasn't running Chipotle. It was I don't know how many they had, probably 50 locations or something like that.
Okay.
Ended up building the restaurant, running it, met my current wife So I broke, the girl that I was dating broke up with me. And then she wanted to get back together, and she broke up with me again. Yeah, and I said, no more of that. You know how that goes.
Woman.
And yeah, that's right. And so I met my current wife, and while we were dating, I was opening the restaurant, and it was like all hands on deck because it's tough to run a restaurant. So I would get her in there to work, and it did pretty well. We made money most months, and I had 1 year of law school under my belt. And so I ended up going to John, my partner. I said, let's do one in Madison. This was right when Madison was kind of really starting to see growth. And I built a second one in Madison, and it just skyrocketed, did really well. And you know where that is. Mm-hmm. It's a Whataburger now.
Yeah. What? Yeah.
Yeah. And
when was that?
That was probably before Chick-fil-A was there. I'll mess up if I try to guess the year, but it was probably
20 years ago?
Probably 20 years ago, something like that. It was probably 2006, something like that, if I had to guess. And 2007 maybe. But it did really well. And I was making more money than I had made in not a long time ever. It was, right. It was finally, something really hit. Right. And so John was really happy, and, we were doing well. And so I decided so I went back in the interim. Some of these aren't sequential, but I went back to law school. Somebody told me, I remember, you'll never finish law school. And I'm like, I remember.
Why'd you say that?
Yeah, I mean, seriously. Right. And if that person wouldn't have said that,
yeah.
I wouldn't have gone back, I don't think. Wow. So I went back to law school and finished law school. And then my goal then was to start practicing law just to get the salary to put toward real estate and to be able to borrow money, because banks love a regular salary, you know, and I wanted to do commercial projects. So I built my first shopping center across from the Backyard Burgers. Still there now. It's got.
Is that the one with like UPS and stuff?
Yes, that's right. It's the one next to those two twin.
Yeah.
It's the first one of those two.
Okay.
I don't know
where the Pizza Shack is.
No, that's down another one down further. It's right next to the one with UPS in it. It's got like maybe
Jimmy John's. Or
yes, I think that's right. But anyway.
That's when you got too many assets.
Oh, no.
I just know where they're
the tenants change. I don't own it anymore, or I would know for sure. But I got that and I built it, and that's the closest I've ever come to going bankrupt. The dirt work was way more expensive, and you'll look at that thing, it's got a drop footing, it's got probably a 15-foot retaining wall on the back. Mm-hmm. And there was a Indian gentleman who I'm not going to mention by name, but was supposed to put in an access road for me, and he wouldn't do it. Surprisingly enough. And I'm like, I am about to finish this shopping center. I've got tenants. I can't access it.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, I can't. And I remember thinking, one payment comes due, I'm done. I can't make the payment because I had spent so much money on this thing. And in hindsight, it wasn't too much, but when you have no cushion, it feels like a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's the closest I've come. And I remember I called a lawyer I said, we got to write a letter to this guy. He ended up doing the road. I got it full, got it leased, and it was still close. I mean, I was making money, but it kind of shocked me. It was too close.
Yeah, too close for comfort.
Yeah, and so I ended up selling that. Actually, I had by then taken a job at Phelps Dunbar where I still work, and I sold it to one of my partners, their law partners, to Delbert Hoseman. Mm-hmm. And so this is when I lived in Red Oak. So I was a practicing lawyer. I had multiple restaurants and rental properties, and I lived in 1,100 square foot house, very little expenses, very frugal. And I would take all my extra money and invest it in real estate. And I would spend all my extra time cold calling people, trying to get developments going. And I ended up getting connections with some companies and building some, like for instance, I made a connection with C-Spire, and they had some markets where they were having a hard time getting stores in. And I'm pretty good at making deals work in markets that are tough and finding real estate. And so I found some locations for them, built some stores for them. And that went really well. And so I ended up building up all these commercial properties and kept practicing law and ended up building another Backyard Burgers in Flowood that also did really well. And I just kept growing and kept building and ultimately did just multiple shopping centers, retail buildings, restaurants, office buildings, things like that. And then when I'm skipping over a lot of stuff for time's sake, but then when ultimately the Backyard Burgers got bought out, the parent company, by a private equity group out of Charlotte, and I could see the writing on the wall. They were making really poor decisions on things and like saving money on things. In the restaurant business, you can increase your profit quickly by cutting costs, but it reduces your sales also, and it's a race to the bottom. You end up going out of business.
Yeah.
And I saw that happening, so I sold all my Backyard Burgers to this private equity group that were just not good people. And met a couple of guys that are brothers that they were selling property in Byram to McAllister's Deli, and I represented McAllister's, but the lawyer that they had didn't do a good job, so I ended up essentially doing the whole deal for them. And they came to me after and said, hey, we want you to be our lawyer. And so I became their lawyer, and then we became good friends, and we decided to build car washes together. And they had just sold their tire business. And so we started building car washes and came up with the brand Go Shine and did the design and everything. We just opened our 7th one, I guess, 4 months ago.
Where all are the Go Shines?
Old Fannin Road in Reservoir, Ridgeland, Gluckstadt, Madison, Clinton, Oxford. And then we've got one under a different brand that we partnered with in Daphne, Alabama.
Wow. That's been good.
Yeah, it's been great.
That's awesome.
It's been great. And,
so it sounds like you found a niche as like a restaurant franchise kind of liaison representing different owners and developers of.
You mean in my law practice?
Yeah, I mean, just like your experience. I mean, it's like, to me, it sounds like you welded two things together. Your personal experience of not knowing anything about the restaurant industry, diving in, doing the Backyard Burger, and then your law side of things and the confluence of that. Now it's like you got a niche deal where you're representing McAllister's or C-Spire or whatever. I mean, I've never met anybody that actually like that's kind of like their niche thing. I think that's really cool. So,
yeah,
but it gives you invaluable insight into your own deals.
That's exactly right.
And probably an access to a network of tenants and things that nobody else is going to be privy to.
Exactly right. That's exactly right. It benefits the clients in my law practice because I have, I know what they feel and I know what they think and I know what's important to them because I've been in their shoes. Mm-hmm. And it benefits me, and I'm pretty good at it. I mean, I do it. I've done it for a while, and I've gotten pretty good at it. And it benefits me, one, because I'm kind of up to speed on a lot of the deals that are happening, and I'm meeting people who are active in types of development. And honestly, I don't even, with real estate or law practice, I don't really advertise much at all. I mean, just the vast majority is people coming to me, and I have to turn down more than I do.
Yeah. Well, and back to being a niche and invaluable, whereas I have to market myself to death because there's 2,000 other realtors in central Mississippi.
Yeah.
If you're in a niche deal, that's the beauty of that, to where you're the go-to guy and you have one really good experience or somebody has a really good experience with you. I mean, a referral is the biggest. I mean, that's with any industry. A referral gets you further than any type of marketing. So
for sure.
I like that.
You got some good billboards, by the way. I saw one on 55.
We got one there, and I took Gina off one time during hunting season and kind of made it more of a hunting billboard. And I had more feedback when I took her off.
She's your secret weapon.
I did.
Yeah.
So I quickly put her back on.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. But yeah, referrals are way more effective than than advertising, and I genuinely try to do a good job and I try to bring value to it. And, and I think they appreciate that. I mean, from the law practice, clients just want to know you have their best interest and you are actually kind of feeling what they're feeling. And they want to know, and they want somebody, and this applies to anything probably, and you've got this ability, but people feel comfortable when you're confident and you're comfortable in what you're doing, and they sense that, and it gives them way more comfort in doing deals with you or representing you. And I tell my associates in the law practice, even if you don't know, don't sound scared. I mean, be confident in what you're saying. And you shouldn't, not only do you not have to lie, you shouldn't lie. But if you don't know something, say, I don't know that, but I'm going to find out and I'm going to get you the answer.
That's right.
But they want to feel like that guy's got my back and he's competent.
Right.
And that is invaluable. It's the same thing in real estate. People, you know, I'm sure you're the same way, but I get people proposing deals to me all the time. But, you know, and because they want to be partners with somebody they feel knows what they're doing, is honest and competent.
Got the playbook, and yes,
and is going to do what they say.
I agree. No, you're exactly right on that. All right, so you've got 7 kids. I'd love to hear kind of in the second part of this, just all right, work-life balance. I got to know on that.
Balance is a strong word. I don't depend. You know, sometimes I don't do that well, but the way I've approached it is the best way I can describe it is I don't really have a separate work, separate non-work life. It's kind of all one thing. Like, I don't think of it as I'm at work, I'm not at work. I'm kind of do it all, whether it's a weekend or any time, or whether it's a weekday. Like, for instance, if I had a shopping center that was in Vicksburg, for instance, I had one, or Hattiesburg. Or Hattiesburg is a good example. I'd take my family to Florida to the beach, and we'd spend half a day doing stuff at that shopping center, and you know, they'd play around, or I'd take them to go look at properties with me, or if I have a call on a Saturday night that I need to take, I'll take it. But then in the same way, if it's a Tuesday afternoon, I need to take off and do something with my family, I'll do that. I just don't separate the two. It's all part.
I like that.
And my kids that's good for kids too, I think. They see that, and they've all listened. I mean, my kids they've been
exposed to more complex real estate deals than I have.
Absolutely. And I don't know about that, but they have heard so many conversations and so many tense and not tense, but so much about this that just when they're 3 years old, they're listening to this stuff. Mm-hmm. And
that's incredible.
Yeah.
And me and you are wired the same way. I mean, just hearing your upbringing and like the way you were flipping boats and different, like I did all that stuff, started selling on eBay when I was 9, and like but like you either got that or you don't. Right. And that drive, like that was my high, was to just like the next deal. Yeah. And it's carried through all the way. I mean, now it's the same way. Every dollar I make, I mean, I'm like, how can I deploy this back into real estate, into another deal, or, you know, I think we're wired the same in a lot of that. And I think if me or you were shoved in an 8 to 5, we would go absolutely crazy. And to your point, like if I want to, I mean, perfect example, yesterday, Monday, I went and played golf. I mean, because I can do it, you know, but on the weekend when everybody's in their pajamas eating donuts, I may be working a deal.
Absolutely right. That's exactly right.
It's just that the fluid part of that, even though we probably end up working more hours in a week than an 8 to 5 person, like I wouldn't trade that for anything, because to your point, I can't tell you how many times I've gone to look at land and I tell my kids to jump the truck. And I mean, like my oldest is 6, and he's not going to understand anything, but I talk about the deal when he's in the truck. You know, it's almost like being in church. You know, if you got a 3 or 4 year old sitting in listening to the sermon, they're not really digesting the sermon, but they really kind of, I mean, they are. I mean, I know Josh
to some degree, that's
preaches about that all the time. Like,
you were saying Josh is he's not your favorite preacher, is what you were saying before we were on air, but I think he's pretty good. Go ahead. Sorry.
There you go. I need to get Josh on here. I don't know where I was going with that, other than just
no. But you're right. They do. It sinks in a little bit, and it's just and that's why the Bible talks about Scripture hanging on your doorways, wrap it around, put it around your neck. It's that constant repetition,
right? And
they hear it, and it may not resonate because every kid may not have the personality to do that.
Yeah.
But I've thought about that, and I think we are like, and I think you're exactly right. You kind of gotta like doing it. It's kind of like who you are. It's not really a job. It's just what you do,
right? Yeah.
And I mean, that's when I hear people talk well, about retirement. I mean, why would you want to sit and do nothing all
Yeah,
day, you know?
exactly. Like nothing gets me more fired up than somebody calling me and saying, "Hey, I got 80 acres. I got a lead on 80 acres over here. You want to come look at it?" I'm
Yeah.
like, I will leave the golf course to come look
Yeah,
at it.
yeah.
Actually,
But there's a risk in it too.
there's a huge risk,
Yeah.
and that's where I would love. I want to
Yeah.
tap into kind of implementation side of things. I want your input on. So, like you said, I was almost on the brink of bankruptcy. So, like, what kind of insider advice would you give? Bridgeford, this 20, this thinking about, he sees potential in something, wants to do a deal, but he would be extremely leveraged in doing it, like, because everybody's got their risk tolerance and their comfort zone, and I've got my personal things where I'm like, my debt, I've got some weird ratios that I kind of monitor on a daily basis of like how leveraged I really want to
Yeah.
be. Like, I'm not scared to leverage if I believe in
service
the
coverage
deal.
ratio, like,
right.
yeah.
I will leverage very far.
Oh, me too.
I'd love to hear your input, and that's gonna, again, everybody's got a different risk tolerance. Because I'll work with buyers that look at a piece of land and they'll marinate for 10 years and
Oh, yeah.
never buy something.
Yep.
But they're also not going to ever make a big lick. They're
That's
not ever
right.
going to.
And it's good that there are people like that, because if everybody was like us, it would be a lot harder to do what we do.
That's very true.
And I don't think business-wise I would have done anything differently, honestly. I mean, it is inherent in what we do that you're gonna get close on a couple of them.
Fail.
Yeah, and somebody told me, here's what I've thought about a lot in my life. If we lived in a country where they could put you in jail for debt, I wouldn't do what I do if I would lose my freedom. But you can't. There's the downside of bankruptcy is really not that bad. I mean, I've never filed bankruptcy, and I don't think I ever will. But you start over and do the same thing you like doing again.
Right.
Somebody told me a
Just
story.
not that last thing you did.
Yeah, that's right. But I mean, I don't think that you should avoid deals because two things to answer your question. One, I don't think you should avoid deals because there's a lot of risk in them. You need to make prudent decisions. And the way I've always approached it, and I don't know if you're like this, but and that's just how I'm built. I'm more comfortable with, I value future value and appreciation more than I do current value and current cash flow. It's just like, if I had something that was making X dollars but was going down in value, or I knew it would, and in 10 years it would lose 30% of its value, I would forego that to do something making less money now that I know it's going to appreciate.
See, I'm kind of the opposite, but I think that's a very good way to look at it. And those are the major home runs that end up happening.
Right.
If you long-term hold something and next thing you know, Amazon pops up, and you
Or
just
even
happen
if
to
it
be
doesn't, the
around
area.
it,
I mean, if your value's going up and your debt's going down, you're
Yes.
doubling up on the gap, and
yes,
that's where
the
you
gap.
hit.
No, that's really good stuff. Now, kind of the lens I look through is, because you got to have money to make money, but
Well, you got to be able to pay it. I mean, I'm just saying.
we do a lot of I'm short-term vision on a lot of real estate investments for the purpose of accumulating cash to leverage into maybe a long-term
That's a whole
deal.
different thing.
So,
And you go into it with the plan of just taking cash out to do something else with
Right.
it. Yeah, that's a whole
and
different
honestly,
thing.
like, we do a lot of things where we leave meat on the bone for the next guy.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, I bought it at a wholesale price. I sell it to you at this price, and the retail value is even higher.
Right.
And two things there. One, we're giving you a good deal so that the deal happens. And two, I want you to come back to me on another deal.
Right,
down the
absolutely.
road.
Absolutely.
And you're not, because if you milked everything for what it was worth, then they're not going to buy you.
No,
buy from
and
you again,
you'll hurt your reputation,
That's
and
right.
you'll end up costing yourself way more money in the long term.
Right.
The other thing I was going to say with respect to risk tolerance is somebody told me, I don't remember who told me this story, but it always stuck with me because I remember when I first started doing this, I would, any one deal would bankrupt me if one deal didn't work. I'm past that point now, but I was there for a long time. And I remember, and I don't do partners, like almost everything I do is I'm 100%. And largely, and I'm getting off track here, but that's largely because I feel like, one, I don't want to have anybody question my decisions because I make unorthodox decisions all the time and decisions that people would, I don't want somebody saying, why'd you do that? And then secondly, I feel like, this may sound bad, but I feel like I'm the one bringing the talent and doing all the work. And I don't want to I don't want to begrudge somebody else just riding along, No,
I think that's we are like the same because I get people all the time. I mean, people that are listening to this that are like, let me know when you find a deal.
Oh,
and I'm like, hang on, wait a minute. So you're going to sit in the office.
Right.
And you're going to pitch in when I need the money.
Right.
And then you're going to expect me
to do all the work.
To do the deal.
Yeah.
I've got the network. I can negotiate.
And then not only that, but then if you don't give them quite enough money, they're going to question your decisions.
Right. And then, but then the check-in, they're going to check in. How's it looking? How's it got?
Yeah.
Like,
So then you have to baby them. They might as well just say, hey, can you give me $100?
It's no different. No different. But, you know, I do a lot of partnerships. I've got a lot of different partners that I do a lot of partnerships with, but the way I look at it is, what can you bring to the table? If you can bring something to the table that's valuable, I'm all
and sometimes that is money. If it's a giant deal where you need the money, that's fine. And that's like my restaurant partner. He brought money when I need. That's really the only thing I have partners in are the restaurant and the car washes. And my car wash partners are outstanding. They're strong Christian guys. They do all the day-to-day stuff, and they're just great people. And my restaurant partner, I like him, but he has a lot of money, so that helps. So that's an element that I need. But on most of the stuff, I don't. But what I was getting to is I remember when I used to be really worried about this in my 20s, like, any deal could put me under. Somebody told me a story about some guy who was like 40 years old, walking on the beach with his head down, kind of crying, going, "What? God, this is bad." And an older guy came up to him and said, "Hey, what are you upset about?" And the 40-year-old guy goes, "Man, I just lost everything, went bankrupt. Everything I worked for." And the old guy goes, "You did that at 40? It took me till I was 70 to do that. You ought to be glad you can start over early." And for some reason that resonated with me. And the principle being, it's not the end of the world. You don't want to make crazy decisions, but we live in a country where the opportunities are just
endless,
bountiful, endless. I mean, in every respect. And if
it's all temporary too. So I mean,
and that's always another risk with doing what we do is you can start holding on to this stuff too tightly, and you won't enjoy it.
One thing we talk about a lot on here is being vulnerable, and it is with what we do, because we both eat what we kill, and you're doing these things, and like it is so easy to get caught up in the hamster wheel and chasing it, and like
always have to have the next deal.
Yes, and it's a slippery slope because you got to do it, you got to provide, you got to be self-motivated and driven and all that. But in the same breath, you've got to check yourself and not idolize this stuff.
I tell people in Sunday school that to hold on loosely. I want to grab it, but I try to think, and I don't know if I was confronted with this, but I feel like if God came to me, now I would have to like literally see him and hear him. I mean, there cannot be a small, quiet voice in the back of my mind because that would not be enough.
Not during quiet time.
No, but if Jesus appeared to me and said, "Give away everything you got," and I knew it was him, I think I would do it.
I think I would. I mean, I know I would.
Yeah.
And I know you will have the same viewpoint. That has crossed my mind. I'm not fixing to do it today, so ain't nobody's fixing to get my hunting track in the Delta, but I would almost do it for the challenge of starting over and proving to everybody, because I know you hear it like it's like, must be nice, lucky, your dad must be, and I'm like, none of that. Like, my dad wasn't in real estate.
Right.
Like, I almost want to start with
watch me
zero.
do it twice.
Let me show you what determination, motivation, and just, I don't know, like, that's that drive, though. Like, I want to do it again sometimes.
But I
also look back down, like looking back at the bottom of the mountain, I'm like, I don't really want to climb that again.
Right, yeah. I know exactly what you, and people say, well, you probably get this all the time. I mean, I get once every 2 weeks, "Hey, I want to grab lunch, and I want you to tell me how to do real estate like you do." And I'm like, "Are you willing to mortgage your house and skip some meal?" Everybody wants the easy route, but
yes.
Somebody told me one time
pick your brain. Let me pick your brain.
Oh gosh, dog! I'm gonna start forwarding those texts to you and say, "I know a guy named Paul who's way better at this than me."
He's looking for people to talk to about this.
But somebody told me one time,
I know we're kind of dog. We will help anybody any way we can.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
that's right.
But just know you're gonna have to.
But it's 99% of the people just want to talk about it and get that feel good feeling. They don't want to do what it takes to do it.
Exactly.
And it's a lot of sacrifice and a lot of risk. I mean, had I gone bankrupt that time, it would not be as glamorous.
Right. You wouldn't be at this table.
Right. That's right. Thanks a lot. But somebody told me one time, if you took all the money in the United States or even in the world and you divided it evenly between everybody in the world right now, in 10 years, the same people will be wealthy again, the same people will be poor again.
Yes.
Because it's about behavior.
Yeah. Behavior, lifestyles. Delayed gratification has been one of my biggest things. I mean, and everybody that says I'm cheap, will attest to it. But, like I sold land on a four-wheeler for 10 years before I bought a side-by-side. And just last week bought my first cab tractor. Been breathing dust.
I've been thinking about that myself. I hadn't gotten a cab.
And I'm like, it doesn't make any sense. The money, I'm like, I look at it and I'm like, I could take this money, deploy it into real estate,
exactly
blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But in the same breath, it's, you work hard. Obviously I needed it, but delayed gratification has been a really, really good thing.
Me too. And that's what I view on appreciation versus immediate income. I get more comfort because I feel like it's delayed gratification. I just get more satisfaction knowing that it's just getting better.
Banking on the long term.
Yeah, that's
good.
right.
So I have forced myself. I've been buying some vacant commercial land that's spitting no return.
Ooh, that's dangerous. You can have a lot of non-income producing land.
So, but it's paid for stuff. So like I'm putting it on the shelf and I'm trying to diversify within the real estate investment portfolio and have that sector of just raw land. They're not tenants. They're not barking. I go over there and bush hog it in my new cab tractor whenever I want.
John Deere?
But no, I couldn't afford that. I went Kubota.
That's low rent.
But so
kind of embarrassed.
I'm trying to force myself to. That's a long-term appreciation play. I have no idea. One of them I sent to you, tried to get you to buy it, but you wouldn't buy it.
Yeah.
Because you don't want a partner probably. But I think I don't know. I mean, being transparent, I don't know what I'm doing there.
No,
and I'm in real estate.
It's a savings account.
It is.
And I try to do that where you can go down a slippery slope of non-income producing property and even good property and accumulate too much.
Yes.
And I try to get it where there's some rental income production, but maybe even not enough to justify it as a good deal now, but in 5-10 years, it's going to be a much better deal. I mean, a good example of that is the Five Guys on Lakeland. I don't know if you've ever been there, but I bought it. I had a client that built it and ran Five Guys, and he sold it. He sold his company to Five Guys Corporate, and he didn't want to own the real estate. And I said, well, I'll buy it. So I bought it from him, and I knew that I would have $300 a month, have to feed it every month for years. Like I would lose money on it. But now it's $600,000 in equity. I'll make multiples of that back.
Right.
And so it's kind of like a savings account.
I like that. That's a really good way to look at that for sure.
And I think also you've got, well, we talked about this a little bit, but you've got, I think, a similar thing that I have where you're good with people, you've got some charisma, and I'm very optimistic. I don't know if you are, but my wife tells me I'm too optimistic, and my wife even says, she'll say, she says that I think everyone likes me, and she'll say, they really don't. But I operate, that's kind of how my mind works. But I think optimism and going into a deal with a positive attitude and that kind of momentum and excitement about it helps people.
I think it forces your mind to find the route in that deal that is the most productive versus, now the other side of that coin is you need to shoot holes in every deal to protect yourself during due diligence. You need to figure out the why are they selling it, this and that. But if you just look at it, as glass half full or half empty or whatever it is, then you're going to gravitate towards that because you can talk yourself out of any real estate deal.
Yep. And people do all the time.
And the talking yourself into it, there's nobody on that side of the coin. It's like, back to your point, who's out here taking the risk? Who's creating the vision and all that? And it's just working, and that's where, like, you're privy to working with those clients from the attorney side, and it gives you insight. Me working with buyers and sellers in homes and land, I get to see everybody's, man, I could talk you out of any deal, period.
Yep.
And I just think it's not for everybody. The appetite's not for everybody, but if you see potential in things, I think, staying on the optimistic side of that coin, that's what it's going to take to.
Definitely.
I mean, anybody that has created projects and quote unquote, got lucky, it's because they stayed on the optimistic side.
No doubt. It kind of goes with what we do. Yeah, because you're right. There is a legitimate reason not to do every deal. And I'll see some people, you could.
It ain't the right time.
Yeah. You could go up to some people and say, hey, let me give you $100. And they would say, I don't know. I think that's too risky. I think I may want 200. I'm not going to take 100. Just nonsensical. But that's kind of goes with the personality, I think, of people who they're optimistic and they're also comfortable with some degree of risk and they enjoy the process of doing it.
Yes.
I mean, what else are we going to do?
I mean, just like you saying that you thrive in going into a market where C Spire can't get in, and like that's your niche, that's what you enjoy. There's people out there listening to this, they're like, that's the last thing I would enjoy doing, is going into a not hostile environment, but an environment where you're not really liked, or, it's going to be very difficult conversations.
Yeah.
So, man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But anyway, all right, Bridgforth, thank you so much for coming on. We need to do a part 2 of this.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, once you go bankrupt, let's circle back.
That's when I'm going to come to you to be partners. Now, the next one, I need to ask you questions.
There you go. Let's do it.
All right. Thanks.
All right.